Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News Weekend. Canada is in the grip of a third wave of COVID-19, and the government says vaccinations are vital. Here's Jamie Pashagumscum now with how that's working out.
Third wave is real.
These are some of the dire warnings Indigenous services are giving.
This is dangerous, and we need to pay attention. We need to use everything we can in order to shut out this virus.
However, they do say vaccinations in Indigenous communities are making excellent progress, and Indigenous Services has just struck a deal with Saskatchewan to have all First Nations communities vaccinated with the first dose by June 30. But at a Zoom conference hosted by the Ontario Medical Association to address vaccine misinformation and myths, it was stated, even after getting vaccinated, people need to continue public guidelines.
Although more science is always needed, and the vaccine is not a 100% guarantee, it's pretty darn good. And in my experience, whereas it doesn't make you bulletproof, it usually prevents you from the real outcomes that matter. Being sent to the emergency department, being sent to the ICU, or being sent to the grave.
In their study, the Ontario doctors found most of the misinformation around vaccines is coming from men 55 to 64 in Ottawa and Eastern Ontario.
By far, but the most troubling for me is that this mistaken belief that it's going to be a real mild case for me, Dr. Rettelmeier. Don't worry, I'm going to be one of the lucky ones. And it's just not true, because it's often a bimodal disease, all right? They get sick for a while and then they get better, and everybody gets lulled into a false sense of security. But the classic trajectory, unlike, say, a pneumococcal pneumonia or an influenza pneumonia, is the second week is when things get really bad and you end up in the ICU.
The doctors say a lot of the misinformation in the province is coming from this site, BitChute, and is spreading over social media. APTN reached out to the website for comment, but didn't hear back before deadline. Meanwhile, doctors recommended getting information from a more credible source and question people who are spreading myths.
When your neighbor says to you, I'm not getting the vaccine because I heard it's an implant from Bill Gates or whatever, you can say, oh, really? Where did you hear that? What did your doctor say about that? You know, do you know anyone who's had the vaccine and his behavior has changed? You know,
Indigenous Services says there are ways everyone can help,
such as childcare, for mothers in order to be able to get to the vaccination site, such as in some cases transportation. So arrangement for transportation, removing the barriers for childcare.
The biggest takeaway is that the third wave is hitting harder than any other previous wave, and we're not out of it yet. Jamie Pashagumscum, APTN National News, Ottawa.
Still in Ottawa, a video has surfaced of an incident involving Ottawa first responders and two women. It was posted online last week by a group calling itself the Ottawa Street Medic Collective. They dialed 911 to have paramedics help an unconscious First Nations woman. The video shows first responders restraining a woman on a gurney. Another woman walks over and some shoving ensues. Later on, the woman on the gurney is heard screaming. The collective says first responders didn't assess her or talk to her fairly. They also claim she told first responders she did not want to go to the hospital. Mi'kmaq aren't just preparing for the upcoming lobster season, they're also getting ready to sue the federal government and non-Indigenous fishermen for the violence that occurred last fall. The suit was filed last Friday by 43 Sipekne'katik lobster harvesters after last fall's moderate livelihood fishery got ugly. The claim alleges 29 non-Indigenous fishermen attacked the Mi'kmaq, that the Bay of Fundy Inshore Fishermen's Association encouraged them, and the RCMP and the Department of Fisheries did little to stop it. Chief Mike Sack hopes the lawsuit will find out what went wrong.
We've reached out to so many people. You know, the Prime Minister was on TV saying that he had questions that were not answered. I've asked Commissioner Lucky questions that were not answered. Getting nowhere. So hopefully this holds those accountable, and generations to come will not have to put up with what we went through, and hopefully we have a more successful, peaceful season coming up.
In northern BC, Lheidli First Nation has ended negotiations with Enbridge and now say they want the company's pipeline off their land. The two sides had been in talks after an Enbridge natural gas pipeline exploded near Prince George community in 2018. APTN's Lee Wilson has more.
Consensus of Chief and Council is that for Enbridge, it appears to be business as usual.
Last Thursday, Lheidli announced the end of negotiations with Enbridge. The two parties have been in discussions after a massive explosion of Enbridge's natural gas pipeline near the Northside subdivision, leading to over 100 members to be evacuated. Lheidli will move forward with legal action, which includes getting 100 kilometers of Enbridge's pipeline rerouted off of their territory. Lheidli got an offer from Enbridge last fall. They won't say what the offer was, but called it, quote, pitiful and disrespectful.
It is not business as usual for the Lheidli, who do not consent to Enbridge transporting hydrocarbons in an unsafe manner through their reserve and territory.
The company refutes the band's claim that last fall's offer was too small. We have made several generous offers to the Lheidli First Nation for the Shelley incident over the course of many months of negotiations. However, the Lheidli First Nation is looking for a settlement from Enbridge on matters beyond the incident itself and that aren't in our control or involve other parties.
Just over the ridgeline here where I'm pointing, and that, of course, there's a massive fireball.
Lheidli leaders say their members are living in fear of another explosion. They said the company's emergency response to the 2018 blast was less than subpar. They also sent a warning to their Indigenous neighbors in the north.
I feel like we're treated like, kind of like they're, Goliath and we're David. Like they just kind of walk in and just kind of do as they please, and they're very used to acting in these manners, and this attitude has to change moving forward.
The First Nation says if Enbridge wants to operate and build pipelines in BC, they will need to build trust, especially with the BC government adopting the UN Declaration of Rights of Indigenous People in 2019.
We're done playing the finger-pointing game. Enbridge, you're a multinational corporation. Canada and BC, you're both the Crown. It's supposed to be a Crown undivided. Get in the room together, and then if you are truly committed to UNDRIP, do the right thing and stop playing this silly shell game, which is not serving anyone's interests.
Lee Wilson, APTN National News, Prince George.
Time for a quick break. Still to come, why hundreds took to the streets of Calgary. Stay with us. Welcome back. Hundreds took to the streets of Calgary over the past weekend to protest Alberta's expansion of the coal mining industry and to stand up for Indigenous water protectors. Tamara Pimentel was there.
We stand together in solidarity with all Nitsitsubi water protectors across Turtle Island who are fighting to protect the land and water for all of our future generations.
This walk, hosted by Latasha Kaffrobe of the Nitsitsubi Water Protectors, drew in hundreds of Calgarians who say they don't want to see coal mines on the eastern slopes of the Canadian Rockies.
Water is life! Say no to coal!
The controversy started a year ago when the province revoked a 1976 policy that protects the Rockies from open-pit coal mines. That policy was reinstated in February 2021. But the province failed to cancel multiple exploration leases it already sold.
The water is forgiving and it will continue to flow until the end of time. And it is our job as Nitsitsubi, as treaty people, to protect it and to stand together today.
This has national attention. Over 18,000 people across the country signed a petition launched by Kaffrobe asking the feds to intervene against Alberta's plan to expand on the industry, with proposals like the Grassy Mountain Coal Project. The 1,500-hectare mine would produce 4.5 million tons of coal annually. And all First Nation councils of Treaty 7 in southern Alberta have written letters of support for the mine. That includes Piikani Nation, but member Garrett Smith says the mine proposed by Benga Mining does not have the consent of community members.
Piikani Nation does not fully endorse this project or any ongoing project that is suggested to rape our mines and destroy our lands. We're not fighting for First Nations rights here. This isn't a First Nations issue. This isn't just about Indigenous people. We're not trying to protect our own culture here. We're not trying to protect our people here. We're fighting for your kids.
Tamara Pimentel, APTN National News, Calgary.
Still in Alberta, the government announced curriculum changes for kindergarten to grade 6 students across the province. The changes have some Indigenous leaders supporting it and some who say more needs to be done. APTN's Chris Stewart has that story.
Alberta Education Minister Adriana LaGrange announced a wholesale revamp of every aspect of the curriculum for Alberta elementary students, from kindergarten to grade 6. LaGrange says the new curriculum will improve the current one, parts of which have not been updated in decades, and that teaching about Indigenous history and culture will start early.
Our children will be learning content-rich, factual information starting in kindergarten, going all the way through to grade 6. They will learn about the extraordinary beauty of the First Nations, Métis and Inuit culture. They will learn it in art and music. They will learn it across all grades and all subjects.
However, treaties won't be taught until grade 4, and the topic of residential schools won't be mentioned until grade 5. The new curriculum has support from Chief Billy Joe Lubican, who spoke at the virtual press conference.
I have reviewed the K-6 curriculum draft, and I very much support it and see it as a really good start, and look forward to the grades 7 to 12 as mentioned.
Former Grand Chief Wilton Littlechild supports the changes. He says that while residential schools are not taught until grade 5, that can change.
So let's say we do that for 1 year and we find out, well, next year let's try it in grade 4 or grade 3 or grade 2 or grade 1 and work at it that way. It'll be a learning experience for sure, but I think it's a good start.
But you know what?
Adam North Pagan is the president of the 60 Scoop Indigenous Society of Alberta. He criticized the hiring of Chris Champion as a consultant on the curriculum. Champion has said that blanket exercises brainwash children. Pagan says issues like treaties and residential schools must be taught much earlier, starting at grade 1.
Our young students need to be exposed to that, at a much younger age, because there are future leaders, and it's important that they have an awareness. And I realize that the whole thing that it may traumatize children of that age, but I'm sure that the curriculum could have been curtailed, where it would have been age appropriate.
Pagan is worried that the real truths of Canada's dark history won't be told.
I'm concerned that it's going to be minimized, or it's going to be rationalized, it's going to be justified, and as a result, the students are not going to be really be able to maintain, the actual true history of Canada.
The new curriculum begins a pilot trial this fall, and it will be fully implemented in 2022. Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Edmonton.
Time for one more quick break, but stick around, there's much more to come. Welcome back. With milder weather, some high schools in the Northwest Territories are taking their studies outdoors. Our reporter Charlotte Moore-Jacobs brings us to a culture camp in Fort Smith to see how some language arts are being taught.
This is the preferred classroom for language arts at Paul William Kaiser High School in Fort Smith, Northwest Territories.
So, how would you say fireplace? Better remember? Couldn't care? Could care.
For Chippewan instructor Paul Boucher, Spring Culture Camp is a way for these grade 9 Chip, Cree, English, and French students to learn.
You know, it grounds them, gets some identity, and a time just to talk and relax and get away from the schoolwork. I think it's important. Boy, you got to cook a big piece of bannock, eh? Clest F, say, Clest F. Some Indian butter there, and how that came to be was in the past when the butter came, they came in a little small yellow little can, and that little can, by the time it got here, it melted. So they used to mix that with Roger syrup, so that became Indian butter. That's something we use now every day here with the kids.
This space is so popular, even some of Boucher's older students stop by.
Riley, you're not even in this class. What are you doing here?
Oh, skipping class.
Do you think he'll tattle on you?
No. I have to make my teacher a bannock, so I'm out here. It's just better than being in class and doing work because you get to practice stuff that you'll know for the rest of your life, and yeah.
Are you saying we don't use math for the rest of our lives?
Well,
for students like Sinise Villeneuve, whose parents enrolled her in French immersion, spaces like these are a way to connect with culture.
I wish that I had the choice to do, instead of FLA, Cree, but still be in French, you know? Because then I can still practice the culture stuff.
On the agenda for next week, processing fish and making traditional crafts.
We're hoping that we could create a new community of speakers with this new millennium and where they're at within their environment. You know, that we have to evolve the language, which is important. And doing this right here really helps with the language.
Students like Dante K. Grenier enjoy the homework, sharing what they've learned here.
At home, I try to teach my brother and my sister. Yeah, like Nia Mitso, say Papuisagan, stuff like that. Nia Mitso Kinasu, which is like I like fish or I eat fish.
And the hands-on learning is paying off.
It makes me proud because I have the opportunity to come out here and speak the language and get taught by two great speakers.
Charlotte Mort Jacobs, APTN National News, The Batcha, Fort Smith.
Looks like a great camp. Now to a First Nations virtual reality company that is using their technical know-how to promote Indigenous cultures. And they are hosting a competition called Share Your Roots, looking for more people to share their culture. Our Daryl Stranger has that story.
Origin VR is a First Nations-owned virtual reality company in Ontario. What started out as an interactive way for kids to learn more about jobs, primarily in trades, Origin owner Melissa Hardy-Giles says the company realized the technology could be a fun and unique way for everyone to learn more about Indigenous cultures.
We realized the power of our reach, and that's when we decided to launch a cultural library. So at the same time, whoever has our headsets and who has subscribed to our Immersive Link library will also be educated and have the opportunity to be educated in how diverse our culture is.
The company is holding a competition called Share Your Roots. They are looking for Indigenous knowledge keepers, elders, and storytellers to share some of their knowledge. There are 4 prizes of $35,000 each, and the winners will get a personalized virtual reality experience.
I just believe that everyone has a story, Indigenous and non. And as an Indigenous person, and being able to kind of lead this, lead during this time of being able to be the company to share our stories from our Indigenous people. We're very honored. We're really excited.
Hardy-Giles said the cultural side of Origin is not business generated. Rather, they use the profits from their career videos to fund the cultural videos. The deadline for submissions into Share Your Roots is April 5th. Daryl Stranger, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Great business idea. Now to another one. A story about a woman who's finding some early success as an entrepreneur. Sunshine Eagle didn't let a pandemic stop her from launching her dream company. APTN's Priscilla Wolf has that one.
For myself, I was born and raised in Sistan Wahpeton Sioux tribe, and I'm Dakota and I'm Cree. Plains Cree. My mother is from the Ilchapways First Nation.
Sunshine Eagle launched her new online cosmetics company, Sunshine Beauty, last fall when the COVID-19 pandemic was in full swing, and online shopping was the way to go.
I launched November 26, 2020 was my launch, and I sold out right away. I sold out right away pretty quick. It was less than a month, and I sold out. And so now my vision, it grew bigger, right? So because I wanted to keep producing the good quality makeup that I have.
Eagle lives on the Pasqua First Nation near Regina with her husband. She says she always wanted to start up a cosmetics company, but self-doubt held her back.
I've always had a vision to have my own makeup line, and at the back of my mind, you know, I hear that little voice is saying, no, you can't do it, you know, you're not going to be able to, or, you know, just having like being my own worst critic.
Her husband and family and friends encouraged her to launch Sunshine Beauty.
I started out with $1,500, and I worked with that, and that's how I was able to start. Was after I shared my vision with my friends, you know, they immediately wanted to help.
She's working on her spring palette now, incorporating her Cree and Dakota culture into the colors and names.
The spring collection that I am currently working on, that is going to incorporate who I am as a Dakota Cree Indigenous woman. I am incorporating, you know, it is so, I wish I could share right now, but we're just working at it and getting it together. But the palette is going to be called a Kichita, and that in Dakota, that means warrior. And so that is what my line is going to be directed towards, is who I am.
Her cosmetics can be found and purchased online.
My website is up. That's my online store. It's www.sunshinebeautycosmetics.com, and I have everything in there. My prices. I have. You can subscribe to the website.
Even during a pandemic, Eagle was able to make her dream a success. She thinks that's because we all want to stay beautiful, even in quarantine. Priscilla Wolf, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
Some great success stories to end the show with. That is all the time we have for your APTN National News for this weekend. For news anytime, you can visit our website, aptnnews.ca. I'm Dennis Ward. Thanks so much for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.